it's probably too little, too late. The Russians have effectively pulled off a major international political coup, and expelling a few diplomats isn't going to change anything, and nor will it prevent future things like this happening again. I think that everybody knew for a very long time that the Russians were hacking. This was known even before the election happened, and so this is something that should have happened a long time ago. And if they had done it earlier, before the election, they might have actually succeeded in stopping the interference with our domestic political affairs.
Yeah, this is something that could not have been unknown to U.S. cyber officials or security officials. Why do you think, Bill, that there's such a reaction and an outrage now? I understand the issues around the election, but the question I would have is, knowing what you know about Russian security, why didn't the U.S. do more before to prevent this from happening?
Well, I mean, that is the trillion-dollar question. It's remarkable, given what was going on and what was at stake, that this was allowed to happen. And I mean, to kick out 35 officials and to put a few people on the OFAC sanctions list is not a commensurate response to the gravity of what's happened here. This is not a partisan issue. It doesn't matter what side you're on. To have the Russians interfere in our domestic political process and hacking us and using that information to try to get whatever candidate they want elected is just an outrage that should be dealt with in a much more severe way than sending out 35 diplomats. The easy thing for the Russians to do is send out 35 U.S. diplomats. Everybody replaces them, and it's all back to normal.
Does this ultimately get reversed come January 20th, Bill?
Well, we don't know, but it's kind of a tricky issue for the president-elect because, on one hand, he said openly, I guess yesterday, why doesn't everyone just get beyond this? He's also said he wants a better relationship with Russia, but it would be awfully suspect if these people are accused of helping him get elected, and all of a sudden he reverses the sanctions. That doesn't look very good either. So it's kind of a catch-22 for him. So it may not get reversed, but it doesn't really matter if it gets reversed. They've got an unlimited supply of diplomats, so they can restock in their posts. I don't think that the U.S. government is saying that they can't have diplomats in America. They're just sending out 35 who were involved in this particular episode.
You know, House Speaker Paul Ryan coming out and basically suggesting that we've had failed foreign policy the last 8 years, and it's left America weaker in the eyes of the world. You've got an interesting viewpoint, Bill, because you are an American, but you've lived in Russia and now lived in England for a number of years. You've lived outside the United States, so you see the international view. Do you believe that the global view, as you see it, is one of a weaker America?
Well, it's for sure that there's been a withdrawing of American interests abroad, and that's led to a vacuum in a lot of places. We can see in Syria, for example, that Russia, Iran, and Turkey were having meetings without the United States in the last couple of weeks to decide what the fate of Syria was. We can see that we had a very tepid response to Putin's invasion of Crimea, which gave him a great opportunity to go further into Ukraine. And so I do believe that we're sort of in a mess right now in terms of sometimes by not doing something, you create more trouble than by doing something. And America has always projected power, and in the last 8 years we haven't projected power, and as a result, a lot of things are happening without our say-so.
Bill, Dow Jones is reporting, citing Interfax, that the Russian Foreign Ministry on the sanctions says the sanctions are counterproductive and will harm restoration of bilateral ties. What impact, in your view, if any, could these sanctions have on Russia and or the United States?
I don't think these will have any impact in the medium term. We've sanctioned Russia. I've been personally involved in sanctions on Russia against human rights violators in Russia. The Russian government, prior to those sanctions being implemented, they're called the Magnitsky sanctions, prior to them being implemented, the Russians huffed and puffed and jumped up and down and said the world will come to an end, the relations will be ruined. And the answer is nothing like that happened. They make these noises every time somebody does anything to call them out. So I think there's absolutely nothing to fear in terms of their reaction to these sanctions.
This may be a little bit out of your wheelhouse, Bill, but do you think the U.S. should be a little bit more concerned about a retaliatory cyber attack, another attack?
I think that the U.S. should always be concerned about cyber attacks, retaliatory or otherwise, and the fact that all this has happened and there hasn't been the capability to stop it is of deep and grave concern, and it should concern every American that a foreign power can come in and decide who they want elected.
What do we do longer term, assuming that Donald Trump, when he comes in, may adopt a different policy stance with Russia? Is it just a measure of waiting out Vladimir Putin, or do you believe that the Russian hierarchy, because we saw Putin leave, then come back, do you believe that the Russian political hierarchy has replacements with the cult of personality such as Vladimir Putin? Is it just a matter of waiting this out?
Well, if we're going to try to wait it out, it's going to be a long wait. I mean, this man is not intending on leaving anytime soon. He'll change the rules any way he can to stay in power. I think the moment that we see Putin gone is going to be the moment when he dies of natural causes and they cart him out of the Kremlin that way. He's there for a very long time. And I would also caution anybody on thinking that we're going to have warm relations with Russia because of President-elect Trump. He may have that intention, but Putin is a natural adversary, not an ally of the United States. And whatever nonsense he's spouting about being friends, he's going to mess us around. He's going to, as he has the last two presidents who also had the same intention. He messed around George Bush, he messed around President Obama, and he messed them around with good intentions from both of them. And so I don't think that we're going to have a long honeymoon period with Russia, even if that's what President-elect Trump's intentions are.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.